Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Does Starfield Shattered Space fix Starfield? And that's the question that I had on my mind as I was going to come into this. Does it significantly improve the base game? Even though I knew it was an experience largely meant to be on its own, self-contained, I couldn't help but wonder if there might be some choices that you could make in that campaign that would have an effect on the larger world and exploring and things that could happen out in the base world as you're exploring it. And I have reason to think that might be the case, but I can't comment on that particular facet just now. But soon I think I might be able to. But for now, I'm just going to give my reactions to having finished the main campaign for Starfield Shattered Space. It was a good experience. Was it worth the cost? Well, I'll get into that. It was a rough start for me, I have to say. The first dungeon that starts off the storyline is on a space station with the gravity not working, and way too long. I think for about an hour I was floating through this space station, navigating, doing some combat, all in 0G, and I do not like the way this game handles 0G, just the way it controls. It just feels like I am sliding around on an ice skating rink with just like sneakers on. And so something as simple as just picking up loot, opening stuff up and getting what's inside just was laborious. And for that to last for like an hour, for me anyway, I think other players will probably get through it faster, but for me it's like, oh my gosh, this is a rough start, guys. But anyway, once I got past that and into the proper quest, which takes place on this Varun homeworld or whatever the crap it is, I was having a pretty good time. Oh, one more thing I got to say about that dungeon at the beginning, though, is there was an insta-kill type scenario where, like, you trigger something and it's like, countdown till you die, you know, and you have to do something really quick and figure something out really quick, and I'm like, oh crap. And of course I didn't figure it out the first time because I freak out under pressure and I'm like, what are you talking about? This is not the kind of gameplay I play role-playing games for, certainly not what I play Bethesda RPGs for. What are you doing? What are you doing? So yeah, I had to reload my save at least once, maybe twice. And there was, at the very last dungeon, a similar type of thing that's like, but totally different situation, totally. Nevertheless, it was like, you need to move quickly or you will insta-fail out of this. And I hate that crap. The second one wasn't as bad, and I learned my lesson after the first dungeon. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to be saving a lot more frequently than I usually do playing this one. Well, in all the quests in between, there wasn't anything, you know, frustrating like that. It was just the first dungeon and the last dungeon each had an element that was like, go fast or you die. So anyway, multiple save slots, everybody. Let's see here. It does add some new weapons that in one or two cases provided a nice upgrade to my loadout. Didn't totally replace all of my existing weapons in my loadout with them, but a couple easily got swapped out, but nothing like game-changing. Just like, oh cool, this has a slightly different sound and it does more damage, or, you know, whatever, in a different look, and, you know, cool, but something that I would expect to be part of like a $5 DLC or something. Anyway, as far as the story, I'm going to talk very broadly about it. I don't want to spoil anything, but you are, right at the start, kind of forced to join this faction that is the Serpent cult, the House of Varun. But you don't have to truly, like, believe. You can just kind of, like, take on the role that they ask you to take on, and then you can go on, you know, their quest or whatever. There's basically infighting between these internal factions of the House of Varun, and that requires you to be an agent of change or disruption, and so... And there's some nice choice and some limited consequence as well for how you resolve different quests along the way to finishing the main quest. I decided about halfway through my playthrough that I just forgot that I was a Terminator, and it turns out I was a Terminator sleeper agent, and so my whole headcanon for how I was role-playing completely changed. And I was having a great time, though. And you ultimately get to make some choices at the very end that seem like big choices that should have significant effects on the universe and random encounters in it, at least given the choices I made at the end. but I can't tell yet. I just exited after finishing the main quest. I talked to some companions after I did that, and they were not happy with the choices that I made at the end, so that was a nice little epilogue. But as far as exploring the open universe to see what changes might have happened to the world state, I haven't really done any of that yet. But I kind of chose what would be the evil ending, because it made sense for my character at that point, and I thought it would create more interesting random encounters. We will see. The Varun planet is great, I thought. It's got more custom-made areas to explore and reasons to do so, so there's more plants to harvest. I don't know that I found much of a use for them. Oh, actually, there were these aliens. Oh yeah, there was these plants that had sealant, which is always a component I needed, and there were aliens that I could kill that had adhesive, like, in their blood or whatever, and I was like, great, I need sealant, I need adhesive for all of my crafting needs, so now I just know. Just explore the Varun planet next time I need some of those things, and they got nice supplies there. So that was very much appreciated just for my crafting ambitions. But also, while you're out there, there's the occasional unmarked campsite or some other little thing that has evidence of what was being done there, what kind of person was using that little facility or campsite or whatever. Just stuff that I'm not really running into on random planets in the base game. And so, yes, as you've already probably heard if you've listened to many other reviews about this, yes, it has more of those custom-made kinds of things, so I'm not saying anything new. On the performance mode on Series X, I'm experiencing 60 frames per second less than half of the time while on the Varun planet, and dipping to under 30 FPS sometimes too. But most times it wasn't too intrusive to me. It was just like, oh, every once in a while I was like, oh man, I wish... I just came off of playing Fallout 4 on the Series X, which is pretty consistently 60 FPS, except for the odd little stutter here and there. So this was like a little bit of a bummer in that regard, but I mean, not like really frustrating to me anyway. Since the update that added a vehicle that you could use to roam planets in, and the difficulty tweaking options that allow you to carry a whole lot more than the base game initially allowed you to carry, I'm finding looting much more enjoyable. I'm finding this exploring the planetary surface more enjoyable on both the Varun planet and some on other planets, but that's pre-shattered space. So, but it just, this, using the vehicle and some of these other updates, playing Shattered Space was among the first few hours that I did that. I maybe, when those updates came, played a couple hours before putting it away for a long time and then getting back in to play Shattered Space. So it's hard for me to kind of separate those things from Shattered Space, even though they didn't, you know, they didn't come with Shattered Space. You get those for free. As far as like just thematic stuff, I do like to comment on that, just kind of given the nature of my channel and who I'm making content for. The Great Serpent cult, or whatever it's called, sadly never presents many of its beliefs, its belief content, its truth claims, other than the serpent eventually sort of enshrouding, they call it, the universe, which I think is meant to in some ways be an echo of other religions' beliefs in like an end time scenario. And I think Christianity's probably known more than most other religions for those kinds of ideas. Maybe there's some in Islam. I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but they keep it very vague. And I wanted to evaluate the merits of its truth claims based on the truth claims themselves. But very few of its truth claims are presented, let alone any basis being provided for them. So that was a little bit of a bummer. It just felt like they were exploring like the vibe of a cult. But I was thinking to myself for most of this quest, I was like, well, is this cult so bad? They believe that some kind of end times thing is going to happen, and it's going to be good for some people, bad for others, but it's really not very specific. And in the meantime, it doesn't seem like they're believing anything really outlandish. The ultimate being, in their view, they just described in terms of a serpent. But, you know, now, of course, in Christian teaching, the serpent is not associated with God and goodness. But, I mean, the idea of a father is. And so it's not, like, totally weird and outside the realm of imagination. I don't want to say possibility, but imagination. to imagine that this god could be a good god. Maybe in the world of Starfield, serpents have a different connotation. I don't know. I think clearly at a distance we're meant to think, oh man, they worship a serpent god, they must be evil. But their belief content as expressed that I ran into in Shattered Space doesn't seem crazy, culty, evil, destroy-y. And the ones that are kind of doing that kind of stuff are considered fringe and zealots, extremists, and not really adhering to the core values of the serpent cult, religion, whatever it is. So anyway, yeah. If you are thorough, though, in exploring one particular office in the final dungeon, you can get some insight. Again, I'm not going to spoil. I'm just telling you kind of what to look for if you want more. You can get some insight in this office by looking at some logs on the table and just kind of, poking around a little bit into the origin of the cult in a way that potentially invalidates its claims, or at least gives strong reasons to think that it's based on something that has been blown way out of proportion. And that's very much in keeping, I think, with many armchair skeptics' common assumptions about Christianity, about Jesus, that like, oh, he was just a normal guy and people got way out of control in what they said and thought about him and stuff like that, which doesn't hold up even among skeptical scholars of New Testament history and stuff. But that is nevertheless still a very common casual armchair skeptic's assumption about Jesus and maybe other figures of the past that religions that have sprung out of. So I don't know. It feels in some way like I would have liked something more challenging. Not in gameplay, but philosophically. I would have liked a story that challenged the player to face the fact that a religion they find distasteful at a surface glance may actually be true. I think that's a good idea for us to wrestle with, both Christians and non-Christians, because at the end of the day, we ought to believe to be true that which is actually true, not what we would prefer to be true. So yeah, it would be interesting if this religion presented at a glance, at a distance, as it is, I think, in the base game, is like, ooh, that's suspicious, might be evil, and have some vibes to it that's kind of like, this is kind of rubbing me the wrong way, but actually at its core, believe good things and have a good basis for believing that its claims are true. I think that would have been so much more subversive and challenging to the player in terms of how they're thinking about this game and this world. Yeah, so, but it was sadly just what I would typically expect from this kind of game and the way it kind of plays with a fictional religion. It took me 18 hours to complete the main quest line. For $30, for me, that might be okay. I haven't finished the side quests or explored all the Varun locations, so that I think will certainly, well, almost certainly add value in my mind. I don't know how the DLC will affect or generate random encounters now that I've finished it, but to play it safe, I'd probably recommend waiting until this goes down to $15 to $20. $15 would probably be $20 would be a reasonable sweet spot. $15, that's where it would start kind of feeling like, ooh, I'm getting a bit of a bargain here, I think. And certainly anything below that would feel like a real bargain to me. I do feel like continuing playing Starfield now that I've finished this, not just to complete the side quests in Shattered Space, but to go out and explore. I am enjoying getting back into it, but a good chunk of that is because I now feel liberated to explore mods more, knowing what Shattered Space did not add to Starfield. It's like, okay, they didn't add this, they didn't add this, let's see if any mods did, because I didn't want to monkey with mods and then Shattered Space cause a bunch of glitches and conflict with those mods or whatever, so I just wanted to stay as vanilla as possible. Although I have to say, before starting Shattered Space, I was like, I'm installing a mod so I don't have to play the lockpicking game anymore. I'm done with the lockpicking game. It's far more frustrating than any previous Bethesda lockpicking game, except for maybe Oblivion's. Anyway, but knowing what I do now, I might just explore some of the free updates that have been added, like the Trackers Alliance, and play with mods for a while I wait for a sale on Shattered Space. So if I were to go back in time, that's probably what I would do, knowing what I know now. At the same time, I do wonder if the choices I made at the end of the main quest will add some fun random encounters or other elements that will spice up the base game now and then as I'm exploring. if and when I run into those kinds of elements, I will be sure to give an update during the Geek Week segment of the Christian Geek Central podcast. So you can stay tuned to the show and jump to that part of the show every week to see if there's any, well, it'll say in the timestamps if I'm talking about Starfield. But anyway, yeah, that's all I've got to say for now about Starfield Shattered Space. Hey guys, Peter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your church or home, or like me, you can do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can also use tabletop games if you want. What you do to raise funds is entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself, from other team members, and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more info about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, make an account at tiltify.com and then click on the team invite link below this video and join the Christian Geek Central team. After that, click on Teams, then the CGC Game Save 24 campaign box, then on the bottom right, click Create Your Campaign. Follow the instructions to create your own personal campaign in support of the CGC Team campaign. To help your donors avoid confusion, I recommend using your name and the phrase CGC Game Save 24 as the name of your individual campaign. After that, as team leader beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to help make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October is going to be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 9th. Although you are welcome to have your events and continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks. Bye.